issue is the ECOFLOW has a 30 amp DC out, you know, so I have that in, I have it into an Anderson fuse bank. Problem is this unit will pull like 32 amps for like a second. I mean, really, really quick. So I posted enough on Instagram, and we talked about it in some videos, and a number of videos had ECOFLOW information on. And again, we're not sponsored by ECOFLOW, and of course we're not. We only have 2,000 subscribers, but just saying, this is just, you know, straight up review. And this isn't a full review. This is, again, how it's working right now for what we need to do. So I'm going to go through how we use the Delta Pro, and I'm going to go through how we use the River Pro, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about, and then the solar. I have 320 watts of solar in 2 panels that is portable from ECOFLOW 2. I'll talk about a little bit about the usage from the Starlink, and I'm also going to talk about the usage from the dual top Webasto, and I can't pronounce anything, so it's probably wrong how I pronounce it, but the usage of that, because that caused me some grief. I had to come up with another solution. But so first we'll talk about the Delta Pro. Okay, so this guy, the ECOFLOW Delta Pro, is the whole reason that we're using ECOFLOW products. And the reason is, this one's a 3,700 watt inverter, 3,700 watt hours battery, lithium battery. It charges from 0 to, I think, 90% or 80%, one of the two, in like an hour and a half on regular power from a house. If you use the EV charger, which is right here, there's an adapter which is not in stock. It's supposed to be in stock mid-April. That is the reason we got this one, because then you can go to an EV charging station any place, and you'd be surprised, and many of you probably already know, but they're all over the place. They're just, you know, not as many gas stations, of course, but the same, there's a ton of EV charging stations. So then we'll be able to go pull this out, or, you know, whatever, and charge that within an hour. So it charges, I think, at 3,000 watts when it's on that. When it's plugged into a wall, it charges at 1,800 watts, or almost 1,900 watts. So very cool. We use this one then is the main one. This one has right here, this is a DC 30 amp charge cord going out, and that goes to the River Pro, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So that's continually trickling that River Pro, which is, the River Pro is dealing with the refrigerator. We will use the Delta Pro's 3,700 watt inverter when we are cooking. So induction stove tops will be plugged in here. I'll run an extension cord through everything and over to the kitchen. So that'll set up later. That's nothing that needs to be done right now. Another nice thing with the Delta Pro is it's very flexible, so you can slow down the AC charging, how much it's charging. So it'll try and grab 1,800 watts from your charging source. Well, that causes problems. For instance, I have a 1,000 watt inverter, which I can't put an 1,800 watt inverter on the alternator because it'll overheat it or overuse that alternator. So this can only, the engine off the Springer can only put out 80 amps, which is about 1,000 watts. So I can change this via the app to only pull 1,000 watts when the ignition is on. So that is very, very slick. Without that, it doesn't work. You have to have then a power station that only is going to pull 1,000. So that allows you to do 900, 800, 1,100, whatever. You can select what speed you want it to charge. So here is our Webasto dual top which is a diesel heater and a diesel water heater, and I love it. Totally dig it right now. We'll see how I love it later on, but basically the setup was really the same as setting up the S-Bar or the Chinese diesel heaters. The same difference. The only thing is then you're plugging in, or you're piping in a cold water and then a hot water coming out of that unit. Other than that, it was fairly simple. But the issue is the EcoFlow has a 30 amp DC out. You know, so I have that in, I have it into an Anderson fuse bank. Problem is this unit will pull like 32 amps for like a second. I mean, really, really quick, and then it goes off. Problem is then it trips the EcoFlow Delta Pro, and then it loses power. So if I'm watching TV or other things, then it'll lose power. The good part is the dual top will continue to go, so it's like it doesn't need it again. Once it does it once, it doesn't need to go to 32 amps again, but that's not really going to work. So I had to come up with another solution. Oh, and one thing is, if I have this down here, I have the this is a manual controls, which I actually like much better than the electronic controls. Now I had a problem. 32 amps coming, or I should, you know, it's probably around 30 amps. It's just enough to trip the EcoFlow if anything else was on, and sometimes even without anything else. So I will show you the solution to that. Okay, so here is the solution. This has a cigarette lighter, and I have it taped so it holds in there. This is an AC to DC, so opposite of an inverter, an AC inverter. So going from AC to DC, 30 amps, but it allows a surge up to 400 watts. So that allows the dual top to work without a problem. And it only surges for like a second, like I was saying. But that is plugged into the River Pro. And so right here, and this inverter is on all the time anyway, because of the refrigerator. So that inverter always needs to be on. That inverter is a 720 watt inverter, and the refrig, which cycles on and off, uses, I don't really remember exactly, but like 50 watts, I believe, when it's actually cycled on. But that was my solution. That took care of it. Now I have basically its own Anderson fuse bank, I guess it is, that controls this, and that works. So I'm going to show you the River Pro. Okay, so here is the River Pro that we use. It's connected to the refrigerator down below, AC. It's always inverted, like I just said. It's being charged by the Delta Pro continually at 4 amps. The nice thing with the Delta Pro too, actually I think I set it on this, I can set the speed that it gets charged from the car. It thinks it's from, you know, the car, basically this. So instead of going at 8 amps, I'm doing, I think, 4 amps, and you can do 4, 6, or 8 amps. So you can control how much it's pulling. So I can use that other power for other purposes. So that's pretty nice. And then I can just watch to make sure it keeps up. I also set, you can also set your charge amount, and I set it to 80%. So apparently with lithium, they'll last longer if you don't charge them to 100% all the time. And also on the Delta Pro, I set that to 90%. So just trying that out. Other than that, we'll use this to, like, coffee grinder, coffee pot, stuff like that, that's under the 720 watt hours. And we'll see, the coffee pot might be more than that, but we'll just switch it over to the Delta Pro. I will show you the solar panels. So one of the objectives on this build is to not have anything on the roof. Not that it's a big deal. We don't have factory roof rails on. There we go. Factory roof rails on it, so I don't really want to put them on there. I don't want to necessarily have a ladder. Would I like to be stealth? Yeah, but will we ever use it? I don't know. It's questionable, but we do look pretty stealth. We do not look like a adventure mobile or an RV, the way it looks. So we'll see. The ladder may or may not come just because of this guy down here and the Starlink. Maybe have it so I can mount that on the top. But anyway, so what we're trying out is we have two 160 watt EcoFlow solar panels, and right now I have them flat. The sun's, you know, fairly high in the sky, and right now I'm getting like 260 watts of power. So we're going to try that and see if that works. The nice thing with the EcoFlows is they charge very quickly. I think from 0 to 90 on the Delta Pro in like an hour, probably 2 hours going off the alternator or somewhere in that range. So this is a fairly slow charge, but it's a constant all day. So the idea is that would keep up with our Starlink activity and any, you know, TV and other things that are going on in the van as far as electrical use. So fingers crossed in that if these actually do it. I don't like having stuff out. I like to be mobile and to move, but I already have the Starlink, which causes me a little bit of grief because I have to put that in and out. And you guys are laughing, but I like turning on the ignition and going. So, you know, it is what it is. But anyway, that is what our setup for electronics is right now and what is working, and pretty close to having, you know, everything kind of connected in. Have some more lights to put in, but I think it'll work. The main hiccup was the dual top Webasto. I can't pronounce any words, so that was the only hiccup because it, you know, bounced over that 30 amps really quick. Other than that, everything's been smooth and they've been charging fast. I've been going to Home Depot like 6 times a day. I mean, I've made so many Home Depot runs, it's crazy. Anyway, that's what it is. I'm definitely going to do another video on this as we learn a little bit more about how everything is working and when we're kind of on the van a little longer. But that's what it is. So please subscribe. I have a lot more information. I got a ton of stuff to show you on the van of installs and how I did stuff. So definitely, and I also have some philosophy on van build, and it's not for everybody, but it is my philosophy on being able to do it quickly and to enjoy your van and still do it very nicely, because the van build looks really good in there. But definitely subscribe, like, and we will see you on the next video. Give you a sneak preview of what we have going on here, which you might have already seen, but